Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Amazon, proud sponsor of WPLN's daily show, This Is Nashville, engaging our differences so we can discover our unity. More on Amazon's community work at aboutamazon.com.
Ready? Tunnel! Tunnel, tunnel, tunnel! Yes, 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 yes! That is so fun! You like the camera, don't you? Oh, yeah. No,
That's contributor Leslie Eiler Thompson getting a kick out of watching a dog named Toast run through her agility tunnel. Leslie's regularly in situations like these for her audio project called Niche to Meet You, where she gets to watch people engage in little-known but beloved niche activities and tell their stories. Let's hear more.
Because it's my hobby to know and care about other people's hobbies and niche interests, I've been to an international Santa celebration and watched Santas and Mrs. Clauses of all shapes, sizes, and creeds joyfully gather together.
1, 2, 3, ho, ho, ho!
I've observed Nashvillians play sci-fi tabletop war game called Warhammer 40,000, which boasts some absolutely wonderfully excessive character names.
Ballistus Dreadnought.
Ballistus Dreadnought?
Ballistus Dreadnought.
That's an amazing name.
It's phenomenal.
It's unbelievable. And I've even been to the starting line of the Iditarod, a 1,000-mile dog sled race in Alaska, to watch a legendary musher run his last.
10.
Niche interests are fascinating, and they're also life-saving. Here's why. It begins with loneliness. The statistics are shocking. The U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, released a report in 2023 with findings that being socially disconnected has actual health consequences. Loneliness increases our risk of depression, anxiety, suicide, dementia, stroke, and even premature death. Even before COVID, about half of U.S. adults reported experiencing measurable levels of loneliness.
We're doing this! Woo!
I see this dynamic at play a lot with the folks I meet. Like for Aaron Welch. He works in construction, but travels a lot. He's based in Kansas City, but was in Nashville for a significant amount of time before COVID, when he was grounded at home with no social interaction except for his new interest in Warhammer 40,000, also called 40K. I mentioned it earlier. It's a sci-fi tabletop war game involving the painting and deployment of small models on a tabletop against an opponent.
I got into 40K because I got hit hard during COVID. I started painting models back in 2021, and I've been going strong ever since.
For him, this activity, the painting of the models, gave way to a new hobby and social structure that combated a season of loneliness. He even still travels to Nashville to play against those he's met in the activity.
One of my favorite memories is when I was here in Nashville 2 years ago. I did a tag team game, but we didn't get too far because we just mainly talked and had fun, didn't get to play, but we still enjoyed our time and everything. So it wasn't about the game, it was just getting along and interacting with people. And I'm thankful for it every day. I don't know where I'd be without it right now.
The more connected we are, the happier we are, and the healthier we are. It's not reductive, it's just statistically true. So then, it doesn't seem like any stretch at all to say that hobbies and niche interests that bring us together can save our lives. In fact, there's a 2015 study that goes so far as to call hobbies and leisure activities the, quote, principal driving force underpinning the human desire to render life meaningful or to give it a sense of passion, pleasure, and purpose, end quote. So it's not just health benefits that our niche interests give us, they also remind us that we are all part of a larger whole. When we learn more about other people's unique interests, we better appreciate the world around us, and we can embrace and celebrate our differences.
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose.
I'm Khalil in Kelowna, and this is Nicheville. You might know what I'm talking about. Many of us might have hobbies, but for some of us, they're more than just hobbies. They're unique ways of existing in the world, often experienced in small groups of people that aren't discussed or explored in mass pop culture. We can also call these little-known hobbies niches. Now, some niches start out as simply a hobby and stay that way, a thing to be done on the weekends. Some other niche interests turn into lifestyles and paid work that begins to be treated more like a profession. And then some hobbies, for some people, become their real full-time work and career. All of these scenarios provide ample opportunity for social interaction for our well-being. Today on This is Nashville, Leslie's project, Niche to Meet You, comes to Music City. Or should we call it Nicheville? Well, we'll introduce you to 3 niches whose participants span a lifetime, from young to old, folks for whom involvement in these niche activities result in rich meaning and purpose in their lives. These niche interests help our guests learn about who they are and to learn about the world around them, and ultimately figure out what to do with that information. Our first guest on today's episode of This is Nicheville shows us how we can use our niche interests to explore what we love and who we are, even in our younger years. Shook Gallagher is a Nashville middle schooler whose niche interest is in the Rubik's Cube. And it's not only given him a new hobby, but new friends and experiences as he travels to compete in speed cubing competitions. Shook, welcome to This is Nicheville.
Hi.
How's it going, man?
Good.
How's summer vacation happening for you?
Very good.
What have you been doing?
A lot of cubing and soccer.
Cubing and soccer?
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you right now, what do you like better?
Probably cubing.
Cubing. There's not much running in
Yeah.
cubing. So tell me, how old are you?
I'm 10 years old.
10 years old. Wow. What's a typical day like for you?
I would say a typical day would probably be starting off, eating breakfast, then going up to my room and cubing for a little.
Mm-hmm.
And then eating lunch, keep cubing. And then after I cube, I would eat dinner and then go outside and play soccer for a little.
Nice. Okay, so cubing, I imagine, takes a lot of discipline and you know, organization in the mind. You're figuring out where the colors are. Is your room pretty clean?
Not really.
I hear that. Well, one day. You and I sometimes are in the same boat with that. All right. So, some of us have seen this Netflix documentary about speed cubing. It's called The Speed Cubers. It follows the best speed cubers in the world. They're competing at the World Championship. But I think folks may not realize that the activity is actually happening in our own communities. Tell me this, Shook. When did you first learn about cubing?
I first learned about cubing when my friend gave me a Rubik's Cube. And I wanted to solve it because I mixed it up. So I watched this guy called John Schneck. And so I learned how to solve it most of the way. And then I watched J-Perm, who taught me how to solve the whole thing. And then my mom told me, or actually it was right after I had watched the documentary for the second time maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that there was a cubing competition in Nashville that she said she would sign me up for. And I was like, wait, there are competitions? I was like, wait, there are competitions that I can go to? I thought it was only, I guess, huge competitions from other places in the world. And I didn't know that there were competitions in Nashville where we are. How
did it feel when you walked into that competition? When you walked through the doors?
I felt what was weird, or I felt kind of nervous. But then, there were a lot of people there. And so I met this guy called Jackson, who has been my friend since the first competition. We've gone to 4 total competitions together.
Okay, so it takes a lot of time to get good at cubing. What type of time commitment does it take to get good at it?
I would say at least 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
And not just practicing. Practicing is probably the biggest component, but you also need to learn a lot of algorithm sets, which takes a lot of memory.
What are algorithm sets? What do algorithms have to do with cubing?
So you would look at a case on a cube that you get during the solve. Then you would do a certain algorithm to solve that step.
Okay.
So you do a certain amount of moves. They're like notations that show you like where to move the cube.
So there's a lot of studying involved.
Yeah.
This is way different from when I was cubing. Okay, so tell me this. What have you learned about yourself from your experience cubing?
That one place that I don't get super nervous is probably cubing competitions, which is very weird because most people like wear headphones and like block or like noise canceling headphones and earplugs, and they get super nervous and stuff like that.
But you don't get nervous.
No, not really.
You feel pretty comfortable in that intense environment.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I admire that. What's your favorite part about speed cubing?
Probably the community because of just how like you don't really get together too often with like not in competitions. So you would always be happy to go there because, you know, everyone there isn't like, wait, how do you solve that? It's just like, oh yeah, we can do cubing together for 6 hours.
What are the crowds at the competitions like? Are there a lot of adults, mostly people your age? Break down the demographics.
I think they're the majority of people cubing who are decent or really good, I would say, are mid-high school or early college.
Have you ever taken down a mid-high school or early college competitor?
I don't. No, I don't think so.
No? But
No.
one day, you'll know you're really
Yeah.
getting better when you can take them down, right?
Yeah.
Well, so tell me about the challenges. Like, what are the challenges that you and other speed cubers face as you're working the cube in these competitive settings?
I think one thing is when you're trying to get good and and you're learning a certain amount of algorithms, like I would say 2 weeks ago, I had to learn like 30 algorithms out of 57 algorithms for one step, and it was kind of difficult and it took a long time.
It's discipline, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, tell me this. And I know your mom is watching us, but it's between you and I. Do you spend more time cubing or doing your homework?
Cubing.
I would too. Okay, so tell me this. Speaking of homework, do you have a speed cubing group at school?
No. A lot of my relatives or people who know me have said you should start a cubing like after school program at your school.
Why not? Do you have friends at school who are into cubing?
Not really, and like I really don't have time because I'm cubing so much.
You're cubing a bunch, man. You got to get some cubing buddies out there. Okay, so Rubik's Cube really hit the scene hard in the 80s when I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
My friends and I would get together and Rubik's Cube because everyone had one. What we did is, I'm not recommending that you do this. I'm just painting the picture for you. We would put money on it. People would put 50 cents on to see who would do better. We would do that at lunch and recess. It got to be a high stakes market. I tell you that. All right. Now, some people might be afraid to get started in cubing because it looks really hard and it looks very confusing. Yeah. And they probably think they wouldn't be any good at it. What would you say to encourage them to at least give it a try?
I would say it is kind of hard at first. I will say that. But once you learn how to do it, it's very fun and easy, and yeah. Okay,
you're going to give us a little bit of an example. You have your Rubik's Cube here.
Yep.
It is not mixed up. Do you mind if I grab it to change it around a little bit? Okay, so everyone, listeners, I am taking Shook's Rubik's Cube, and I am messing it all up. Before we had these every side uniformed colors, and I'm just going to close my eyes. And can you do it blindfolded?
Not yet. I was trying to work towards that, and I can solve all of the edge pieces, but like it's a lot different from just solving it normally because you have to solve the edge pieces then the corner pieces, not layer by layer.
Okay. When you get there, come back on the show and show us, okay?
Okay.
All right, so Shook's Cube is totally mixed around. I'm going to give it to you. Do you mind if I time you while we do this?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so hold the cube up so we can hear that. Okay, I will let you know when to go. Stopwatch on my phone is on. 3, 2, 1, go. He's turning them. He's fast. Bam, 16.49 seconds. Shook.
Yeah.
You're a champ. This is awesome. Look, I would say this, you would have taken all of our money when we were at school. Well, I really appreciate you being here and thanking you for coming on and telling us about this fantastic niche that you have and this amazing skill. Keep it up. Good luck. Hope to see you win some of these competitions. Have a great summer, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much. Shook Gallagher is a Nashville middle schooler and master speed cuber. Again, thanks so much, my man.
You're welcome.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk with a couple who have combined travel, music, and a love of cooking into the perfect song of culture and fun. Stay with us. This is Nicheville.
Funding for This is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil Egalona, and this is Nicheville. We're tracing a lifetime of niche interests and hobbies on today's episode of This is Nashville. And the first segment looks at how we can learn about ourselves through our hobbies early in life. Now, our guests, Zach and Maggie White, show us about how we can learn about the world during the middle years of our lives using our niche interests. They're going to do it in classic Music City fashion through their work as traveling musicians. Zach and Maggie's hobby is regional cooking. It was born when they wanted to make the food they ate in different parts of the world upon returning home from touring. Zach and Maggie White, welcome to This is Nicheville. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
This is great. Okay, so can one of you explain regional cooking for us? What is it?
So basically, I mean, it's not an official term. We've kind of made it up ourselves, but it's the idea of thinking, especially as we buy groceries for the week, what region are we going to be cooking in? Mm-hmm. And that allows us to find the ingredients that are kind of common across dishes from certain spots of the world. So, you know, if you're going to be cooking a lot of Italian food that week, of course, you want some pasta, but you'll also make sure you're stocked up on your oregano and some good olive oil and plenty of garlic for American versions of Italian cooking and things like that. But, you know, and that can just keep on expanding. If you're doing more Asian culture stuff, you might need to get a lot more ginger. So it's really kind of born in that idea of let's for the week or through our grocery shopping, think about the place we're cooking in.
I think every time.
Yeah.
Different regions. Have you covered all 7 continents?
Oh, not even close.
You're on your way. So, Maggie, tell me, how did you all develop this niche interest?
So really, traveling, we're always living out of our suitcase, and there's no room for knickknacks or fun things, so we just decided to eat them instead. So as we traveled around, it's like you find some cool restaurant, like, yeah, well, I'll try that out, and then you start realizing this is really fun, and you want to take a piece of that home. And so when you get home, I don't really want to go out to eat, but I want to learn to make what we just had kind of thing.
Okay. So it's really picked up your culinary skills. Mm-hmm. You two have. Now, at home, I imagine you have different utensils and things. Mm-hmm. If you're going to make Asian food, you may need a wok or what have you. So you guys pretty much have everything you would need to make cuisine throughout the globe, right?
Yeah, actually a wok got added just last year, I think.
Yeah, after a trip to Singapore, and we ate a lot of Chinese food down there. And
Zach became obsessed with Szechuan peppercorns.
I love them.
And so, that was...
We had to figure out those dishes.
Exactly.
I mean, one of the things that we kind of came up with was, as you travel around, there are a lot of similarities, especially as the world gets more global and the internet. You see a lot of repeating type of things, products and different stores and entertainment. But we in classic fashion of us, we made an alliteration of like the 4 main things to look for when traveling. Okay. And we call them the 4 Fs. Do you want to do them?
Food, flora, fauna, and folks.
Food, flora, fauna, and folks.
If you
break
look for
each
those,
down for me.
Okay, yeah. So if you go, basically, when you're traveling, if you keep those 4 things in mind, you will be able to have a better sense of each location you're in. So, flora and fauna, the plant life, the different creatures. Bird song was one. This last trip, we traveled pretty much the whole other hemisphere from England to Australia and back last year, and we were struck when listening. Wow, the songs of the birds change as we go. We're not birders per se. Yeah. That's not a hobby we haven't dove into
yet. We just
yet.
noticed, like, I've never heard that sound before. And sometimes it was beautiful and sometimes it was annoying, but still it was different.
It was different. It was unique to that location. Flora, of course, the trees are usually something people pick up on pretty quickly in different plant life. And then, of course, folks, friends, part of the reason we travel is to see people. And that's what makes a place unique, and the attitudes and cultures of people. And then food is also classically a big cultural element of different locations. And then especially when you keep the focus on what is grown in this region, what literally comes out of the dirt here. Last year we were in Italy for about a week or so, and most dinners, we just went to a local market and got the berries, because it's summer in Tennessee, and I love the berries right now. We go down to produce place and get a big bowl of berries every Sunday. That's our lunch. But in Italy, I can't describe how much better they were just because of the soil in that region. Something there. So it's taking advantage while we're there. Let's look at that food, flora, fauna, and friends. Kind of hard to say.
I love it, though. Those are the 4 Fs. And have you ever, discovered, like you said, you're walking around, you can see some of the flora. Have you ever discovered, hey, this is a natural herb there? Do you include that type of thing into your cooking, where you're picking things out from your travels and walks or hikes?
It's a good idea.
We haven't yet. It's a little risky. I mean, I've always loved the idea of getting into mushroom hunting. I mean, that's
risky.
A classic, yeah, exactly. Big risky thing. But there are a lot of people in this region that do that.
We did have morel mushrooms for the first time this year.
That's true.
Which is in this region.
Yeah. So it's that's a classic example. If you have the right guide and the people to instruct you along that path, that's a fantastic hobby in and of itself. Let alone how to treat them best in the pan.
That's where folks come in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It needs folks. It helps connect you.
Which ones will kill you, which ones will send you on a space trip, and which ones are actually edible.
Exactly.
All right. So I want to talk about a little bit about your travels. Tell me some of the favorite places you have traveled to and what you took from those adventures.
I would probably say,
well, we play with Irish artists, so we've been to Ireland a number of times. In fact, we brought a pie in today for y'all to take a taste called a banoffee pie.
I have had some before the show, and I can tell everyone it's absolutely delicious.
And that's a UK dish, mostly, that is kind of a staple at potlucks. Bananas, dulce de leche, this kind of crumbly graham cracker-like thing called a digestive biscuit. It's a name that sounds worse than the actual flavor. It's very delicious. And then a big heavy cream on top. And so we found that dish because of a friend who was obsessed with it every time we went over at this port bar in the north tip of Ireland. So we go there and it blew us away. It's like, this is delicious. And because of that, he especially was so obsessed with this recipe. He found the boyfriend of the cook. He was waiting for her to get off her shift, and he asked her for the recipe, and we have it written down on a napkin hastily. Wow. And slowly we broke it down, looked up some recipes online, and got the best estimation we can.
We don't have as high fat content in our dairy over here, so we had to figure out how do you get this density, but that's part of the fun.
Hey, so, look, I can tell you my stomach is saying you both did a great job. What's the strangest, yet most delicious food item you've had during your travels?
What do you think? I didn't have all these lists prepared in my head.
I mean, I do think one of them is the Szechuan. That was the most different that I'd had, where it was the Szechuan peppercorns and he's obsessed with them. I really, excuse me, I really love them as well. And they kind of have a peppery thing, but they're slightly numbing. And so it's just kind of I've just never had this sensation before,
Yeah.
And
kind of
so,
tingles on the tongue. Incorporate it with some hot pepper as well. So it's kind of a new angle. How often do you get to have a new flavor on your tongue?
Yeah.
Other than, typical 5 ones that we always talk about. Actually a new sensation I've never had before. So we had that in Singapore 2 years ago. and it was sweltering hot because it's always sweltering hot in Singapore.
Yes.
And it was the spiciest dish I think I've ever eaten at a restaurant, and I loved every second of it. It was, these little. It reminded me of home, hot chicken, hot pieces of chicken, but with a new twist.
Some folks are kind of hesitant to try new foods. Either it looks different to them, it potentially could taste different to them. How can folks kind of get past their initial biases to dive into something that they might actually love?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think for me, it's just I'm always like pushing it a little bit further, but I never really go like crazy out of my comfort zone. I just might take a little step in something. I naturally kind of ate everything within my culture, so then going to other cultures, it's like, well, I clearly haven't had it all, so may as well try this one too, But
sometimes it can be seated in a distrust of something, which it's like, do you trust the people in front of you? And oftentimes, if we just realign our visage, our perspective. I mean, Anthony Bourdain would talk about it. People would criticize him for eating these street foods all the time. And he said, these people are cooking for their neighbors.
Yeah.
If they're cooking bad food, they're out of work. Yeah. So why are you, as the Westerner, suddenly coming to the street food vendor poo-pooing it just because it doesn't look the same way? And it's kind of that idea of understand where you're at. Do you see locals eating this, or is this a tourist trap? To tell you honestly, I would always rather eat from a street cart in a local neighborhood than some tourist trap, because they know the tourists are leaving tomorrow and they don't have to be responsible for bad practices.
Now, when I took a sabbatical earlier this year, I was in Bangkok and Thailand and Vietnam. I was in Bangkok about 3 a.m. I had the most amazing shawarma sandwich I ever had. I love shawarma. Had New York, Los Angeles, and because it was these young men making it, it was that same thing. I looked at the cart. Would it have passed the inspection? I don't know, but it definitely passed my taste bud test.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Tell you that. Okay, so you've taken these niche interests even further. You infuse it into your work. You've written recipes that coincide with your new called The Elephant Room, right?
Elephant in the Room, yeah.
Elephant in the Room. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we wanted to combine basically our hobby of cooking with the songs, and so we paired basically the book is kind of like, think of your liner notes for your album. Okay. And so the book is that, but we've paired a recipe for each song on the album and given a story for the recipe and the song. So
they're typically based around a pun of some sort.
That's true. Like the elephant in the room, the dish we paired with that is the elephant in the shroom. So it's just a mushroom dish.
Yeah,
mushroom risotto.
Yeah. What are some of the other titles? I love puns.
So that banoffee pie that you had earlier, that's in the recipe book. And it was for a song called Bring a Banana, which is kind of a retelling, imaginative history where the space monkey goes up, because it happened around 1961, same time as all the American-Cuban issues happened. So the space monkey's watching the whole drama in Cuba go down as he's flying up in space. And the tagline is, wish I remembered to bring a banana.
Okay. If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and this is Nicheville, and I'm your host, Khalil Ekalona. We're talking this hour about the niches and special interests of fellow Middle Tennesseans. My guests are bluegrass musicians Zach and Maggie White. Okay, we're going to give the listeners a treat. We have some live music in the studio. Can one of you set up the song you're about to play for us?
Yes, this is The Elephant in the Room.
Elephant in the Room. Ladies and gentlemen, Zach and Maggie White.
No one noticed me coming. I can't believe how long it's been. The conversation seemed delightful, but the looks were awfully spiteful. My probiscuits found the biscuits in a tin. Found a corner for myself. Admired sundries on a shelf. Listening into different whispers, reading lips beneath their whiskers. These ears of mine are bigger than an elf. I'm just an elephant in the room. The state of faces says I've ruined the mood. I'm not sure I'm really welcome. I didn't know I was being rude. I'm just an elephant in the room. I tried to grab myself a drink. I spilled it on a lady's mink. While they were cleaning picking up her garments made of pricey little varmints. I spilled a glass filled with something pink. I was covered soaking through. I tried to squeeze into the loo, but accidentally ripped the sink out, water gushing from a wall spout. I've turned this lovely place into a zoo. I'm just an elephant in the room. The state of faces says I've ruined the mood. I'm not sure I'm really welcome. I didn't know I was being rude. I'm just an elephant in the room. What is wrong with me? I've been at my best, just as cordial as a guest could ever be. Tried to mind my own, politely laughing at jokes that wouldn't crack a grin on the skin on my back. No one said a thing all night about my bumbles or my plight. So I just stood there keeping silent, looking big and pink and frightened, just wondering if anything's alright. I'm just an elephant in the room. The state of faces says I've ruined the mood. I'm not sure I'm really welcome. I didn't know I was being rude. I'm just an elephant in the room.
That absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay, so what's the corresponding recipe to that song?
It's called Elephant in the Shroom, and it's a mushroom risotto.
Mushroom risotto.
Yeah, and the elephant in the room in the recipe is that it uses a really modern technique called sous vide cooking, which is this kind of, you put the risotto ingredients basically in a bag, you cook that in water using the circulator device, and it makes it foolproof. You don't have to sit there stirring it for hours.
Okay.
So the elephant in the room is you have to buy a product to make the recipe, but it's really delicious. It's absolutely simple and easy. But we combined it. There are like, we love finding about test kitchens because there's the comparisons between music and food are endless, and technique is one of them. We really love bluegrass music and Irish music and some of that folk stuff that we grew up playing because of the technical elements. And we're starting to find that in our food too. It's like, oh, if I use better knife skills, or if I understand why, you add Parmesan after you've cooked the food, because if not, it coagulates and becomes kind of weird. And you start learning the techniques and the sciences behind it. You get better at both creative ventures.
Now, you're traveling musicians. You're always on the road, like you said, and your love of food has given you opportunity to learn more about the places you visit. What about how does your love of food help you understand more about where you live, enhance your understanding of your own community here?
I think Stroopwafel Day would be
That's a fun
answer,
one, yeah.
Right?
Stroopwafel Day.
Yeah.
Break that down for me.
So we had one afternoon in Amsterdam. It was to catch a flight. And so to make the most of it, we just walked along the street and saw all the street food vendors, and they were selling Stroopwafels. So to
describe a Stroopwafel, it's like a thin cookie-like waffle mixture with a little slather of caramel in between. You've probably had them on a Delta flight or something like that.
Okay, yes, I have.
Yeah.
And so they had them fresh, and we got one and split it and said, we'll take another, please. And so I thought, I want to have a day where I just invite friends over for as little or long as they want to stay and just make fresh Stroopwafel. So once a year, we set up on our lawn with a Stroopwafel iron, and we have the syrups and the cookies, and we smash them out and put the syrup on, and we just invite up as many folks as can come. And so kind of like bringing a community thing back, bringing a piece of something we learned on the road back to home and having a community event from that kind of thing. So
it's been really fun. Yeah, it started in COVID, but now it's just become a big tradition. We've met new friends at it because friends will bring friends.
Okay.
There's been connections made there, and but it was all because of the simple little side of the way they used it in Amsterdam as a street vendor thing. We thought, well, this will work in our town to bring people together.
Now, I'm sure you shop at some of the international food markets.
100%.
For someone who has yet to shop there, what's the best way to approach like learning about the new items that you can cook with there?
I would say kind of maybe go small. Like there's probably a recipe you've been timid to cook because there's an ingredient in there you're not sure about. I love my international markets so much in town. They offer incredible deals and discoveries. I find new things which lead me down new paths to eat. And it's like, what are you going to spend $7 on one new item? You go, I don't know what this is, but let's try it.
Yeah.
And that's the fun is you recognize this is an expenditure like any other form of entertainment. This is not my meal for the night per se. This is one ingredient, and I just want to understand that. The benefits vastly outweigh the risks.
How would you encourage others to get more out of their travel so they can so that the experience is memorable other than just simply a vacation?
Yeah, I mean, I'd go back to the four F's of just kind of like taking those moments, even if you're in a place for a very short period of time, you can just kind of stop and think like, what do I see? What do I hear? And
being able to observe the real life. I mean, Nashville's becoming a tourist city. And we all know, I mean, I don't know too many of my friends that have lived here for a number of times that go and frequent the tourist parts of town, like any city. I come from St. Louis originally, same kind of thing. We go once in a while to partake, but really the everyday life of town has some real beauty to it. So whenever I visited a place, I'm kind of curious, how can I see the everyday life that these people are experiencing? And I walk away with a much richer and much more meaningful thing. And honestly, I'm pretty relaxed because I'm not fighting crowds. I'm not going through all of the hoops that usually a tourist thing forces you to go through.
Man, Zach and Maggie White are bluegrass musicians, chefs, travel enthusiasts, and cookbook authors. I want to thank you both for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
So good to be here.
Thank you for that delicious pie.
Absolutely.
I'm saying. We're going to take one last break. When we come back, we'll talk with Santa. That's right, Santa. It's Christmas in July. You can join the conversation by tweeting us at This Is Nashville. We'll be right back. I'm Khalil Ekolona, and this is Nicheville. We've spent this episode understanding how our niche interests can help us learn about ourselves and the world around us. And our last segment will show us how we can take that information and do good with it no matter what age we are. And we hope you've been good this year because Santa Claus is in the studio with us today. Santa Shed has been a sought after professional Santa since 2020, and he's hired across the country as the big man in red. Shed is the official Santa of the pizza chain Slim and Huskies and is working with other Black Santas to encourage representation within the Christmas performers community by forming the Santas of Color Coalition. Santa Shed, welcome to This Is Nicheville.
Hey, what's going on, Khalil?
Oh, I'm doing all right. How about you?
Man, I'm doing well.
Tell me this. How did you become Santa? I mean, what got you into sleigh, so to speak?
So I've always been a giver and a lover. And those are the two requirements to be a professional Santa. You got to be a giver. You got to be a lover. In 2020, our country was at a critical time where there were a lot of images of Black men around. And I didn't like some of those images that I saw. And I felt like I needed to represent in a different way. I wanted children that looked like me, that grew up the way that I grew up, to see one of us smiling and happy and giving and being benevolent. And so that was how I got into being a Santa. Happened in 2020, so this will be my 5th season.
5th season doing it. Take me back to when you were young. Did you ever see a Black Santa when you were growing up?
Absolutely not.
None, never.
No, never. And as a matter of fact, when my children were younger, we didn't talk about Santa. And so this is something that I definitely have grown into. But again, we always talked about giving. We always talked about loving. And so it was a natural transition for me to step into this role.
Help me understand something. How is being a professional Santa different from the other Santas we might see in movies, for example?
So some of the depictions of Santas in movies are a creepy guy, a sleazy guy, think of, well, I don't want to name the movies because they didn't pay for advertising here, right? But there's a couple movies out that show Santa as a shady character. And being a professional Santa, that's exactly the opposite of what we are. Again, the two requirements to be a Santa of any color, of any ilk, from anywhere, you have to be a lover, you have to be a giver. We tell children, you'll see a lot of Santas all over the place. However, the Santa with the most magic in their eyes is a Santa that gets to deliver the presents on Christmas Eve.
The Santa with the most magic in their eyes.
The Santa with the most magic in their eyes. You can't have magic in your eyes if you're a shady character.
True.
And so that's what makes being a professional Santa different than the depictions that you see on television and the movies.
What's the training like? Are you pulling sleds at 4:30 a.m.? Are you running through obstacle courses? What does it take to be a professional Santa other than being a giver and love?
We do that. We do some of that.
Wow.
Well, we're out pulling sleds and, we train in the snow. And, there's a bunch of, practice sleighs that we use to make sure that, we know how to navigate those reindeer the right way. But we also have to practice taking photos. We have to practice our smile. We have to practice getting a genuine smile out of people that are appearing with us. We have to practice where people should sit and how they should sit. For example, I never grab a child. I have a parent place the child in my arms. And then I'll always observe how the parent is holding the child so that I can hold the child in a way that's similar to their parents because they're more comfortable that way. And then there's little things like that I do personally. For example, if a kid wants to cry, guess what? It's the kid's picture. So if the kid wants to cry, everybody cries.
Okay, you cry with them.
Absolutely. If a kid doesn't want to be held, Santa doesn't hold that baby.
Okay.
Let the baby run away. I tell the parents to go stand behind the photographer. As the kid is running away, the photographer takes a great photo of the kid running towards them and Santa's posing behind the kid.
I love that.
That's a great photo. Man, I've got photos with 17-year-old young men, and it looks like their recruiting photo when they go to a college recruiting trip. And so we're standing back to back with our arms folded and we're not smiling because I want to get a photo with everybody. It's about a memory. And some people's memories have a smile on them. Some people's memories don't.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's their memory.
Yeah. I'm curious real quick. Who cleans up after the reindeer?
So there are some elves who've gotten in some trouble. So some of those elves on the shelf who were misbehaving, that's some of their punishment.
Okay. Yay. Hey, you got to stay on the right side of things.
Hey, absolutely. Speaking of staying on the right side of things, here's a little secret that I'll tell just for the This Is Nashville listeners.
Okay, thank you.
The elves now have technology where they can check your cell phone.
Oh, wow.
That has made my list a little bit shorter.
Look, Santa Shed, if the elves can check people's cell phones, your naughty list is about to grow exponentially.
It has grown exponentially over the last few years. So be careful what you do with your cell phone. Especially tell your younger kids to be very, very careful about what they do with their cell phone because the elves know exactly what's there. Even that hidden folder and even those things that they put in vanish mode.
Okay. Look, breaking news. We gave it to you first here on This Is Nicheville. Is it true that there was an international Santa celebration in Memphis this year?
Yes, there was. So there were a bunch of Santas in Memphis. We trained, we talked, we strategized, we professionalized what we did, and then we did a walk down Beale Street. We did a Santa parade down Beale Street, which was amazing.
How many Santas were walking down Beale Street?
I don't have an accurate count, but there had to be several hundred.
Wow.
Yeah, we filled up Beale Street. As a matter of fact, other patrons on Beale Street stood on the sidewalk because we filled up the road.
What were the faces of the patrons like as you and hundreds of other Santas walked down the road?
Oh, man, it was amazing. What I felt like was very special. Memphis is definitely an African-American city. It's a black city with a lot of black residents. And a lot of people, just like in Broadway on Nashville, not a lot of locals frequent Broadway. But we saw a lot of local Memphians down on Beale Street. And there were several that were saying, oh, there's a black Santa, there's a black Santa, there's a black Santa. And they want to take a lot of photos with us. And it was encouraging to see those children come out to see us there. And Memphis is a city that's dear to my heart. We, again, you said that we're the Black Center for Slim and Huskies. And their location in Memphis is one that we've been to for the last 4 years.
Now, in 2023, I understand you established the Santas of Color Coalition. Tell us about this.
So the Santas of Color Coalition, I was a part of the founding group. of about 14 Santas, but we are a network across the country of Santas of color. And so there's Hawaiian Santa, Hispanic Santas, but most of us are African-American Santas. There's a different feel for what we have to do. In addition to being a regular Santa, we also have the responsibility of representing our unique communities. And so that's what the Santas of Color Coalition does, is it helps us to make sure that we're representing our community in the way that we should.
Why is it important that the Santas of Color Coalition, have a presence among other Santa gatherings?
For example, there's beard care. And the beard care for a Santa who is of color may be different because of the texture of our hair.
Mm-hmm.
And so, little unique nuances like that are important for us to understand.
Now, representation matters across the board. Some folks may not consider why it matters so much for Santa. How have you seen representation play a role in your work at Santa, specifically here in Nashville?
So I think 2 years ago, I was at the Slim & Huskies in Antioch. Shout out to Miss Gray at Slim & Huskies. They are amazing people. But I was at their location in Antioch, and I had a family come up to me. Caucasian lady had 3 African-American children, and she said, "Hey, we're going to take photos, but we can't post these photos anywhere. These are my foster children, and so they can't have pictures anywhere." She said, "I adopted these. I've fostered these children, and we're from Fort Worth, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
We saw your advertisement that you would be at this location. We have some family in the area, so we decided to double up on our responsibilities for this. And so we wanted to come and see our family here, but we also want to make sure that these foster children got to see a Santa that looked like them." Man, Khalil, I tell you, that warms my heart.
Yeah.
And there's a pastor in Clarksville. His family, they adopted 3 African-American children, and their youngest son has always wanted to see a black Santa. And so they've been coming to see me for the last 3 years as well. And so it's pretty special when families seek you out to represent their children for specific reasons.
Yeah.
And so that's important, man. I don't care what anybody else has to say. I don't care about the naysayers, the ops, the haters, those people out there that don't like what we do because of the color of my skin. I do care about those children who see me and say that's a representation that's important to me. I also encourage those families, go find you an African-American dentist. Find you an African-American physician. Mm-hmm. Find you an African-American attorney. Find you an African-American politician. Find you African-Americans in all different walks of life to represent what they can be later on in their life. Who knows? Maybe they'll be a Santa, maybe not. Maybe they'll be a teacher. Maybe they'll be a radio host.
Wow.
There's a lot of different things they could do.
Yeah.
But they need to see it in order to be it at some point.
You're taking me back to 1977. I've got a bunch of siblings. There were only 3 of us at the time. And my mom's from New York City. Grandparents, it's a tradition to take your kids down to Macy's.
Yeah.
To get a picture with Santa. We waited for hours and hours to get a picture with Santa. It's 1977. My grandparents were very happy with it. It was a white Santa. They were happy with the photo. My parents desperately wanted us to see and take a picture with the black Santa. And I remember us traveling all over all day. We finally found one in the Bronx. So there's 2 sets of photos, one with the white Santa, one with the black Santa. My smile probably wasn't as big with the black Santa because I was a little bit tired. I was 3 years old and what have you. But I do remember that as being something special to look at those photos. Has anyone who's ever taken a photo with you come back and you've run into them and they told you what that experience for them or their child meant?
So what's pretty cool, man, is to see people post their side-by-sides. They'll post a picture from 2020 with me and the child, and then they'll post a picture from 2021 and 2022 and 2023. Those are pretty cool. I can't wait to see the new 2024s, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll have kids who've grown up with us. And when I see especially a newborn, if I'm their first Santa, I'll tell the parent, I look them square in the eye. I am their Santa. They've got to come see me every year. And especially, Khalil, when I see fathers. Hey, look, it doesn't matter what happens with you and the mother. You take a Christmas photo with this baby every year.
It's July, but Christmas spirit is kind of something that's meant to exist all year round. And Santa brings joy to a lot of folks. You're making your naughty or nice list right now. The elves are on it, on our phones. What do you want people to know about how we should be treating each other right about now. I got about 45 seconds.
Yeah, just love on everybody. That's it. Just love on everybody. We got a difficult time right now in our country. Every election is the same way. There's a lot of tension. Just love on people. But Khalil, before we go, you said we only have 45 seconds. You and I have someone in common.
Who?
Your father is Captain Kwanzaa.
Yes.
That's a cousin for Santa.
Okay.
So tell my cousin I said hello.
I will. Hopefully he's listening today and make sure. I really want to thank you so much, Santa, for being here. Santa Shed, a.k.a. Shedrich Webster, is a professional Santa portrayal artist. Santa Shed, thank you so much for being here today. And please, please, please make sure that I'm on the nice list.
We'll have to check your phone, Khalil.
Oh, man. Well, there goes that. All right. Thanks again for being on the show. And thanks to you for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville as a production of Nashville Public Radio. Today's episode was produced by Leslie Eiler Thompson. Congrats. It was directed by Tasha A.F. Lemley. Our technical director and board operator is Liv Lombardi. The masterminds behind our theme music are Larange and Namir Blade. Special thanks to Abigail Flowers. You can listen back at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get good podcasts. And the conversation doesn't end here. Tweet us at This Is Nashville. Find us on Instagram. Tell us what you want from our show by filling out our quick survey online. You can also call and leave us a message. We do answer them at 615-760-2000. This is Nicheville. I'm Khalil Ekalona. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody, and be good to each other.